The story begins in the present day telling us a different version, one in which Kail has been completely erased from everyone's records. They are taught that it was the sacrifice, the Linus that caused the defeat of Arabos, the genesis of evil. This has not been questioned until now. The real twist comes when Kail, reincarnated in this era, learns about the story of Arabos's defeat, and realizes that his name appears nowhere. We will follow the story of reincarnated Kail who, after discovering his absence in history, enrolls in Lumen Academy, the Heroes Academy that houses the Heroes Registry, determined to reclaim his place in the world. Years have passed since the reincarnation of the hero Kail, and now the scene takes place at the Royal Dalan School inside the classroom. The teacher stands in front of the students, reminding them of the current era they are living in, known as the Era of Heroes. 5,000 years have passed since the Heroes Registry first appeared in the world, and the underworld has experienced many changes during that time. For example, the Royal Dalan School has been chosen to host this year's Lumen entrance exam. The teacher is full of excitement, confident that among the students, some have the potential to become heroes. He believes some will pass the entrance exam and someday see their names written in the Heroes Registry. Because of this, he urges everyone to pay attention during the lesson. However, not everyone shares the teacher's enthusiasm. One student in particular, sitting in the last row, seemed completely uninterested and instead is taking a nap. This student, of course, is Leo. The teacher is frustrated by his lack of attention. He reasons that if Leo is not paying attention, it must mean he already knows the material and sees no need for instruction to challenge him. The teacher asks him to explain the ritual from 5,000 years ago that had to be fulfilled. To earn the title of hero, Leo finally gets up from his seat and answers the teacher's question, as casually as possible, simply saying that if someone made a name for themselves, people would start worshipping them on their own. By the way, the full name of our protagonist is Leo Plab, a 15-year-old young man from the prestigious Plab house. Needless to say, the teacher is clearly disappointed by Leo's half-hearted answer, so he turns to the class and asks if anyone else would like to offer a more detailed response. A brighter student raises their hand enthusiastically and offers an explanation. This student explains that in ancient times there was no direct way to gain the gods' recognition. Instead, only sacred rituals were used to choose those who would be considered heroes. A main example of such a ritual is the blood ritual. The teacher is completely impressed by the depth of the answer, and is sure that this student named Gugiban will become the greatest magical genius in the kingdom. Gugiban comes from the Tratton house. In any case, it seems that Leo is getting quite tired of the same nonsense he faces every day. From his perspective, encountering the gods was nothing special in his time, since it was simply part of life after all. The gods once gifted the underworld a miracle to honor the great heroes who fought against Arabos, the Heroes Registry, but for some reason Leo does not understand why he is the only one who has been completely erased from history. No one seems to recognize his role, and this begins to affect him. Later, the students gather around the windows, all eager to see the Singer clan as they march down the hallway. At the front of the group is a lady, Celia Singer, a person who awakens everyone's interest and curiosity. An announcement sounds asking all students to gather in the auditorium for a mandatory assembly, since the Singer clan is visiting the school. As Leo begins to leave the classroom, Wu Jian calls him, asks if Leo plans to try to get the attention of the Singers. But Leo, uninterested, simply shrugs. He has no desire to get involved in whatever the spectacle is, he just wants to go home. This indifference only ignites Wooleven, who can't believe how casually Leo is letting such an opportunity to look as cool as Leo pass by. Wooleven explains that he doesn't care much about the Singer clan either, but he will definitely see Celia, especially because he considers her a rival. Later we find Leo in the dojo, visibly exhausted after tirelessly swinging his practice stick. He finally grabs his sword and heads for the exit. Just as he leaves, he is ambushed by a woman who attacks him with the force of a runaway train. Leo, although surprised, manages to block her strike with his sword. It is clear from their interaction that this is not the first time these two cross swords. They share a history, one in which such exchanges are nothing unusual. The lady is eager to fight him after so long and declares that this fight will be her final test before granting him permission to attend the Lumen Academy. It turns out this formidable woman is none other than his mother. In an instant, she attacks him again, and their swords clash once more. While Leo struggles to keep up, his mother calmly comments that he hasn't even used a fraction of his full strength. Blow after blow, the fight continues, each strike more intense than the last. However, eventually Leo turns the situation around. His pure skill and mastery with the sword allow him to dominate his mother, forcing her to surrender. The woman is amazed by her son's talent and growth. She stands and in a softer tone asks him why he is so determined to attend the Lumen Academy. Before the story progresses, some context about the Academy is necessary. The Lumen Academy, the Academy of Human Heroes, is one of the 4 prestigious institutions of the races that house the hero registry among them. Leo strongly suspects that the Lumen Academy is the most likely place to discover remnants of his past life as the fallen hero. With such a convincing reason, it is no wonder that Leo is determined to join the Academy. Leo's mother reminds him that the members of the Singer clan are currently visiting Delon and will be staying at the Plab mansion. Although she personally is not thrilled to have them in her home, she has a request to make. She intends to speak with Sei, the vice patriarch of the Singer clan, hoping that he will be willing to teach Leo the Laura Singer technique. She believes that with that technique, Leo will become strong enough to be admitted to the Lumen Academy next year. However, what she doesn't know is that her son is determined to be admitted this year. He has no patience to wait another entire year to reach his goals. Sometime later, we find ourselves at the Plab mansion where Celia Singer is being escorted inside. As soon as she gets out of the carriage, she can't help but wonder why her uncle chose to stay in a place like this, when he could have easily rented an entire hotel for himself. As we already know, she is Celia Singer, 15 years old, a sword princess from the Singer clan. Her main focus is the entrance exam to Lumen, and she is skeptical about how a small family like the Platts could help her prepare for it. At that moment, Celia's uncle calls her. He is none other than Sei Singer, the vice patriarch of the Singer clan. He asks in a teasing tone if she is not at least a little curious to meet Leo, the same boy who boldly declared he was not interested in the Singer clan. Celia remains indifferent and comments that if Leo is just an aspiring knight who can't even use an aura yet, in her opinion, he is probably not that impressive. However, Sei does not share her feeling. On the contrary, he seems quite optimistic about Leo's potential once they enter the mansion. Sei steps forward to greet the heads of the Plab household and exchanges respectful words with Dad. The Patriarch and Queen Plab, his wife, both hosts, kindly return the gesture, welcoming the Singer to their home with the same honor. Then, Six formally introduces Celia to Queen and Dave. The young lady promptly returns their hospitality with a courteous introduction, expressing gratitude for being received in their home. The Queen steps forward and takes a moment to observe Celia. She notices that Celia resembles her father and her uncle both in appearance and behavior. Celia in turn notices the striking black hair and red eyes of the Queen. She quickly realizes that the Queen is part of the Deserting clan, which also makes her Celia's aunt. Later, Six and the Queen, who share the bond of being siblings, sit down and begin to catch up. During their conversation, Six mentions his recent visit to the Royal School of Dylan, where they hoped to catch a glimpse of Leo. However, they were disappointed to discover that he had already left the school, as he was not interested in meeting anyone. The Queen apologizes on behalf of her son, acknowledging that his behavior might have seemed disrespectful. Six then curiously asks his sister what kind of person Leo is. Raina speaks very highly of him, affirming that Leo is incredibly talented. Her response leads Six to question whether Leo is truly worthy of inheriting the flames of deserting. Raina's praise for her son continues, but she makes it clear that she is not speaking just as a proud mother, but that Leo really has the talent and potential to be worthy of the deserting legacy. Six is quite intrigued upon hearing this. Although he trusts her judgment, he feels the need to test Leo for himself. Later, we find Leo sitting quietly, trying to concentrate after finishing his small ritual. He tells himself that he has finally achieved a vessel capable of containing everything he needs. Leo reflects on why he had not learned aura until now. The truth lies in the unique nature of his body. Accepting aura too early would have caused him to naturally adapt and specialize in alignment with aura, which would limit his ability to accumulate mana and soul energy, two essential components of his long-term plan. In his past life, he had witnessed the danger of uncontrolled power. If he had fully harnessed the abilities and essence of his fallen comrades, he would not have left a seed of disaster behind to avoid repeating history. Leo is determined to achieve perfect control in this life, so the first step in his journey is to master aura. But he intends to do it on his own terms. Before he can delve further into his thoughts, a familiar voice calls him, diverting his attention. Turning, he sees Celia Singer with a confident smile. She comments on how he finally seems to have understood the basics of training, and although her words have a touch of sarcasm, she continues offering him guidance in fencing, if he is willing to take on the challenge. Meanwhile, our guy has no idea who the hell she is, so she introduces herself as Celia Singer, the world-class sword princess. With introductions made, Leo gets straight to the point. Although he feels quite honored that she thought of him, He has no intention of receiving any guidance from someone he considers less skilled than himself. Needless to say, the girl is upset to hear this, as his comment gives the impression that he is, suggesting that he is stronger than her, to which Leo clarifies that in a deathmatch, she is probably stronger since he cannot use aura yet. However, fighting with only fencing is a completely different game, and he is confident he can handle her without problems. Celia feels challenged by his statement, so she looks around and grabs one of the many swords available. She wants to prove that what he has is just misplaced confidence, and plans to doing it by defeating her in a duel in her mind even though Leo learns aura. There is no way he can defeat her. She just wants to give him a harsh lesson about reality. Then he states that if she wins during her 1-week stay here, he will become her servant. Leo is not affected at all by the terms she threw at him, and in response he asks what would happen if he wins to make it fairer. She replies that if he wins, she will be his servant instead. Now that the rules are clear, Leo grabs a practice sword and throws himself into combat. He tries to hit her with his surprising speed, but she easily dodges. However, he cannot help but notice that her speed is really worryingly good. Nevertheless, Celia is sure that this will not be enough for him to win. When both launch themselves at each other again, Leo lands a brutally strong hit, and the force behind it overwhelms her. She quickly steps back. As the force becomes too difficult to handle when Leo's sword hits the ground, it instantly breaks, but he does not stop there. He charges at her once more. The lady who was previously arrogant now begins to regret having challenged Leo and is sure she cannot block the incoming blow, so she prepares and takes the impact head-on. But to everyone's surprise, she suffered no damage because she had used aura armor in the last moments. Although this was not part of the training, since this sparring was supposed to be only about fencing, this arrogant piece does not admit that she couldn't dodge his attack. Instead, she makes an excuse saying it was just a reflex. But Leo declares that he has already won and that it doesn't matter. Of course, this leaves Celia incredulous, as she is not willing to give him the victory so easily. Leo had anticipated this, so he takes off the magical bracelets he was using to restrain his physical strength. In the next hit, he literally destroys her barrier, leaving the girl completely surprised. Meanwhile, Leo shows no mercy and gives her a taste of his full strength. Later in the courtyard, while Leo is walking, he meets his mother, who immediately introduces him to his uncle. Leo quickly bows his head to pay respects. The uncle returns the gesture by introducing himself as well. The two gentlemen shake hands. Then his mother asks if he has met Celia, to which Leo recalls how she fainted after their battle due to fear. Before Leo can explain what happened, a knight approaches to report to the uncle about the lady. He is fascinated to learn that Leo defeated Celia with a body that hasn't even learned aura yet. He personally expresses his admiration for Leo, saying he is nothing less than impressive. But Leo claims she only underestimated him, then asks what she lost. Celia in the bet, to which Leo happily responds that the loser had to become the winner's servant. So basically, Celia is his servant for the next week. Even though the uncle doesn't like this idea, he understands the importance of keeping one's word, but makes it clear that Celia belongs to the Sin-Gur house, so he cannot order her to do servant work. He hopes Leo will withdraw the promise, and in exchange offers to personally reward him with something much more valuable. But Leo immediately rejects the offer and tells his uncle that this was a bet between Celia and him, and as long as she keeps the Sin-Gur name, she must take responsibility. The uncle then asks if he is also willing to pass up the opportunity to learn the Sin-Gur aura breathing method. Leo responds again with a sarcastic answer, believing that an aura breathing method, given to avoid humiliating a niece, has no value to learn. Since the uncle sees no other way out of this situation, he decides to get a bit offensive. He asks the boy directly, reminding him that he just declared he would use the direct lineage of the Inger as a servant, and that the Sin-Gur breathing method is useless. Leo remains calm and indifferent to the consequences around him, simply stating that what his uncle just said is indeed true. Suddenly the uncle's mood changes and gently asks the boy if he doesn't think what he just declared is rude and disrespectful. Leo again makes it clear that he did not intend to insult the Ingers and states that if they had given him the aura breathing technique as a reward for defeating Celia, he would have gladly accepted it. However, he has no intention of accepting it as a bribe just so she can and escape the consequences of her defeat. You see, if his uncle does not want to acknowledge Celia's defeat, that means they believe she is better than him and simply lost the duel due to a mistake. But Leo makes it clear that even if Celia had fought seriously against him, he still would have won. This makes Leo's mother even prouder, and his brother also feels fascinated to hear such judgment from Leo. The fact that this boy rejected the offer just because he didn't like his uncle's behavior highlights how exceptional he is. He wishes a child like him were a Singer 6 then. He gestures to his knights and orders them to send Celia to the servants' quarters. Then he turns to Leo and grants him the right to address his uncle. Without honorific titles after that brief conversation, Leo says goodbye and Six turns to his older sister proudly, telling her that once he returns home, he will make sure to convince his older brother to teach Leo the powerful Phoenix breath technique. Later, the scene changes to Leo's room. The first thing we notice is Celia's completely embarrassed face. She is completely overwhelmed with shame as she introduces herself as Celia, the servant who will be in charge of Leo. During the next week, Leo is literally enjoying the situation a lot. When she calls him that way, who would have imagined that his usual elegant style would look so good with simple servant clothes, and that dress just looks fire. Honor Celia seems annoyed by the way he praises her, since she knows very well how beautiful she is. Leo apologizes since he did not intend to offend her with his words, but admits he had a friend who excessively praised beauty, and that habit probably stuck with him. He remembers how that friend used to say that the beauty of eternity is incomparable, and that if peace returned to this world, he would spend the rest of his life spreading beauty to everyone. The friend they talk about is none other than the dwarf blacksmith master called Owner. Suddenly, Celia's eyes fix on the book Leo is reading, and curiously asks about it. Leo explains that he used to read it a lot when he was younger. It is the book known as the Great Hero of the Beginning. Celia remembers how she used to read that book when she was barely 5 years old. Seeing how much she likes this particular book, she approaches the bookshelf and takes out another. Mentioning that there are many books about Kail in response, Leo states that many of the great achievements in history are difficult to attribute to a single hero. He believes many of these achievements, attributed to a single hero, are actually the result of the collective actions of several heroes over time. In summary, he is trying to imply that Kail's achievements have also been attributed to other heroes, but Celia dismisses such thoughts, stating that Kail was probably a fraud who tried to claim the achievements of the great heroes. At least that is what most people think, and of course, she is one of them naturally. Leo does not like at all hearing that everyone considers Kail a fraud with no contribution to the world, so he moves away from the whole conversation about Kail and decides it is time to have breakfast. Before starting his training, Celia quickly assumes her role and, like any servant, humbly asks her young master if she could train with him. Outwardly, she is kind and polite, but inside the girl has many toxic thoughts towards him still. He has to play along because he wants to discover the secret behind Leo's strength. He begins to walk toward the training hall to fulfill his request. A while later, we see Celia exhausted, on her knees and breathing heavily after this first round. Leo gives her his opinion during the fight when her endurance reaches its limit. Her reaction speed decreases and more gaps appear between her movements. When that happens, she leaves herself open, and the same happens to her now, but Celia is not sure that abusing her body this way is really useful for training. Leo responds positively, because he believes young people today are too weak. You see, compared to the past, aura techniques have developed considerably, and it must be why people stopped worrying so much about physical training. Aura allows you to improve the body's strength, and if you train your body, the aura also improves. The girl simply doesn't want to be labeled as weak, so she gathers her strength and gets up for another round. Before launching herself, she warns Leo that he better stop underestimating her. But her reckless charge goes wrong when Leo throws her far away with a single blow, and she falls to the ground at this point. She is frustrated after suffering defeat, after humiliating defeat. Then Leo offers her a bracelet, which she quickly reaches out to take. What she doesn't know is that this bracelet is enchanted with weight magic, which makes it incredibly heavy. Meanwhile, Leo smiles sinisterly as he reveals his intentions, apparently planning to make her train while wearing that bracelet from now on. The next day we see Six also watching how they train after seeing how hard it is for Celia. The uncle is sure this will be a good experience for her before going to Lumen. Maybe it's good for her pride to be broken at least once. Then he calls Leo and gives him good news. He is thinking of asking the patriarch to allow him to inherit the Phoenix breath. The mention of the Phoenix breath surprises Leo, because as far as he remembers, that technique is basically the origin of the family. Without for the Laura technique, he has heard that only people recognized within the family can inherit it. Celia also thinks her father won't allow it so easily, but it seems that Six already understands this. He proposes a condition to Leo. If he passes the Lumen entrance exam, he will be allowed to learn the technique. Of course, this comment doesn't sit well with Celia, because in her eyes, Leo is just a brat who doesn't even know how to use aura. And since the Lumen entrance exam consists of real fights, it's going to be very dangerous for him. Well, Leo doesn't hesitate to state that he has no real experience in combat, but we all know that's only true if you don't take into account his previous life. Six awaits Leo's opinion, to which our boy quickly agrees. As long as his parents agree with the decision, a week passes, and finally, The day of the Lumen entrance exam arrives when they see Celia's prominent figure without among the participating students. Everyone is amazed. Meanwhile, Celia throws a hint at Leo, asking if he's nervous. It seems that after spending so much time as a personal servant, Celia has gotten so into the role that she continues, referring to Leo with the title of Master. While they are there, the unmistakable voice of Kail catches her attention. Actually, he is there to see Celia, but he is a bit surprised to notice that Leo is with her. This guy throws a hint at Leo, since he believes our boy doesn't belong there, as he doesn't even know how to use aura. At the same time, he tries to greet Celia politely, however. The poor guy is totally ignored by the duo as if he doesn't exist. He gets uncomfortable and tries to remind Celia that he is Woolevan Tratton and that he greeted her the last time they met, but to Woolevan's dismay, Celia doesn't recognize his name and quickly grabs Leo's hand to walk away from the scene. Suddenly they are called by another person, actually two siblings who appear on the scene. The taller one is Abad Leyland from the Leyland family, and he is 16 years old. The shorter girl beside him is Chelsea Leland, 14 years old, and shares the same last name. While he appears to recognize these two, Leo has no idea who they are. Celia explains that they are the Leland siblings from the same heroic line of the Lordan Empire, the children of the Leland family. Celia is especially excited, because she is not happy at all to see these two, and warns Leo that the Leland siblings will participate in the exam with them, so they cannot lose against them. She definitely cannot allow the Singer clan to lose to the Leland family. But this is not really a problem for Leo after all. He is from the Plab family, not the Singers anyway. When the two greet Celia, she has no interest in their greetings, and returns the gesture. She also makes sure to introduce Leo as from the Plab house, a noble family within the kingdom of Daf. Upon hearing that Leo has no fancy title associated with his name, Abad Leyland dismisses him as insignificant. The two siblings quickly turn and walk away, throwing the warning that they will surely be in first place. Needless to say, Celia does not like the Leland siblings, and is eager to completely crush them in the upcoming tests. Suddenly, someone representing the Lumen Academy steps onto the podium, immediately capturing the attention of everyone present. The man introduces himself as Alvisaron, a professor from the Lumen Academy. While Celia's expression changes to one of surprise upon seeing this prestigious figure, Leo seems unimpressed, mainly because he has no idea who this guy is. Celia is visibly upset that Leo doesn't even recognize someone of Albi's stature. She takes the opportunity to educate him, and explains that Albi Saron is listed in the Heroes Registry, a distinguished list of individuals considered heroes of the current era. Leo takes a moment to carefully observe the professor and notices something peculiar: an enormous amount of mana concentrated in Albi's left eye. The Professor Albi then proceeds to address the gathered students and begins to explain the format of the entrance exam. According to Albi, the tests have two main components: one-on-one combat and monster subjugation. Traditionally, participants would take turns completing these tasks. However, Albi immediately clarifies that he finds such methods tedious and wastes no time demonstrating his point. In an instant, he burns the sheet of paper he had in his hands, as if completely discarding the conventional structure of the exam. Then he pulls out a thick ancient book, and upon opening it, the professor summons the first chapter titled Prologue, The Wild Forest. At that moment, a huge enchantment circle begins to glow beneath the feet of the entire student audience. The scene is set, and no one has any idea what the professor intends to do next. But one thing is clear: Alvisaron despises inefficiency. He declares that he will combine all the tests into a single continuous challenge and advance everything at once. To understand what is happening, we learn that the Heroes Registry is not just a historical record. Its true value lies in its ability to manifest the world of heroes, which contains the experiences of heroes from the past. By accessing this world, one can inherit the power of a previous hero. In short, it is almost like a hero training system. All the students have been transported to this world of heroes known as the Wild Forest. The professor announces that their only goal is to survive. They can join or eliminate each other, do whatever is necessary to stay alive. Those who wish to leave can break the orb they have in their hands and return. That's all. After looking around for a few minutes, it doesn't take our guy long to recognize the place. It looks exactly as he remembers. You see, this used to be a forest or elf before being taken by the Witch Queen Salota. Meanwhile, some students want to return, especially because they believe this place is nothing more than an illusion, but our boy does not share those thoughts. As far as he can tell, although this world may have come from the examiner's memories, everything that happens here will be real. The deadly dangers here could seriously kill someone if they are not careful enough. Upon mentioning danger, Leo notices someone's presence and is soon attacked by an arrow. that literally shatters the ground beneath him upon impact. Fortunately, he is safe, but when he looks toward the source of the arrow, he sees it as the girl from the Leland family named Chelsea. It seems she has mistaken him for a member of the Singer family, and is therefore determined to eliminate him, but Leo quickly makes it clear he is a member of the Platt family. However, Chelsea becomes more aggressive, thinking he is lying since she saw him with Celia. Before, without hesitation, she casts her magic. Leo seems impressed to see her recite a spell that didn't exist in his previous life, but he also notices that the fundamentals of this spell are not very different. Meanwhile, Chelsea feels frustrated by how calm and serene he is. When facing her to unsettle him, she unleashes her impressive skill against him, but Leo simply blocks it effortlessly with a single strike of his sword, and the mana blade she threw at him just falls to the ground. This leaves Chelsea puzzled, because from what she can see, he didn't even use aura. So how did he block her attack so easily? Our boy casually rubs salt in her wounded ego. Casually stating that her attack was too simple, he invites her to form an alliance. Since it will be beneficial for her, he reminds her that whoever survives longer will earn more points, so as a sorceress, she should at least try to pass a test before being eliminated. Needless to say what her answer was, she quickly responds and boasts that she is not the type of sorceress he thinks but a battle mage. She feels offended by his comment, calling her attack simple. Feeling the sting of his words, she channels all her power to crush him on the spot, just to prove she is not the weakling he thinks she is. But all her attacks end up useless, since Leo isn't even standing in the direction the blades are coming from. The worst part is, she can't sense a trace of mana anywhere, so she can't even find him. But her eyes soon meet Leo's, who is right in front of her, with his fist clenched. We don't see if that punch hits her terrified face or not. But one thing is clear, her knees lose the strength to stay standing, which is a clear sign of victory for our boy Leo. However, he reminds her, once again, that the offer to form an alliance is still on the table. If she changes her mind, before we can hear her answer. The scene cuts to the Lumen Academy teachers who are watching the spectacle. Through a digital window, they are excited to see that the battle is finally intensifying back with Chelsea. It seems she is not receiving mercy. Leo has tied her to a tree trunk, and the expression on his face clearly shows he has no good intentions. With this poor girl, he also makes sure to light a small fire. As night settles, the fire intensifies and the flames begin to approach the damsel in distress, tied to the trunk. Seeing the flames makes her panic. But she could avoid this fate if she agrees to cooperate with Leo. However, this lady is as stubborn as few and flatly refuses. She makes clear she doesn't need anyone to ally with. Except her brother, she tries to use some wind magic. But her efforts are useless, because Leo has already placed a skill that restricts magic. Although internally he reveals he doesn't have enough mana to maintain this skill, so it won't last much longer. Finally, the girl gives in, thinking he doesn't need magic to get out of this mess. But that's exactly why Leo is here. He is more than ready to watch her closely to make sure she doesn't try anything strange. Without hesitation, he increases the intensity of the fire, and soon the flames begin to reach her. Even her clothes start to burn. Well, that's the last straw. The girl finally gives in and agrees to form an alliance with him, but of course, a few words are not enough to convince Leo. He tells her to swear by the name of her family. The girl quickly complies with his demand, swearing by the name of the Leland family that she will cooperate. Finally, Leo unties the ropes that bound her. But before she falls into the scorching flames, he holds her in his arms. The scene returns to the teachers who are watching diligently the students perform so far. Albisaron has not seen a student who meets his standards, thinking that most of the students chose to compete and fight each other. Seems completely silly and ridiculous. The only ones showing true strength to the point that it is noticeable are Celia Sender and Abad Leland, who are working together at least. This gives him some peace of mind. Since there is hope for the students, then his attention turns to Leo and Chelsea, who are also working together. His eyes are especially fixed on Leo. Although the fire trick he did to Chelsea was quite immature, getting Chelsea Lelang to cooperate at least grants him a passing grade in Albisaron's eyes, especially because he lacks the power or grace of Celia and Abad. However, it seems that here the teacher is completely wrong, because our guy defeated Celia without even sweating. Anyway, Albisaron considers Leo an unexpected dark horse in this competition. After defeating some monsters on his way, both Leo and Chelsea decide to move forward. It seems that Chelsea has finally begun to realize that forming an alliance with Leo was not such a terrible decision after all. Then she asks him what aura he is using, since she has not detected any mana in him. To her surprise, Leo casually drops the bomb that he doesn't even know how to use aura. No wonder this shocks and surprises her. While they continue talking, a monster is lurking behind the bushes and watching them closely, but Chelsea quickly notices the monster's presence and shoots at it. Instantly, I'm not going to lie, this attack was too strong for such a weak monster. Even Leo admits that she really has impressive strength, but the way she uses it is completely wrong. Suddenly Leo feels something strange and tells her to stop her movements. He has noticed something odd in the arena. When he crouches, he notices dry earth and decomposition, dead bodies of people. Suddenly an explosion erupts, but Leo quickly jumps to the side, carrying Chelsea in his arms. The cunning guys who had set the trap finally come out of hiding. It turns out to be William and his companions. We all know he has problems with Leo, so it's no surprise he's here specifically to attack him. He orders one of his companions to charge, and the poor fool obeys without hesitation. Unfortunately for him, he is met with a devastating blow from Leo, leaving him lying on the ground. Leo stands imposing and radiating total gigachad energy, and calmly tells Chelsea to just back him up. For a moment, Chelsea is surprised to see how easily he managed to save her. Twice in a row, but she quickly gets up and stands behind him, ready to face the remaining henchmen. Meanwhile, Kuyiban does what he does best, run for his pathetic life. He abandons his group, desperately trying to put as much distance as possible between him and Leo. The only thought crossing his mind is to find a fast companion. As fate would have it, Celia sees him from afar. Instead of chasing him, she calmly walks in the direction he is running from. When they finally arrive at the place, what they see is impressive. The area is full of monster corpses and the bodies of the students who tried and failed to face them naturally. Chelsea is happy to finally reunite with her brother. Meanwhile, Celia throws a comment at Leo, demanding to know what the hell he is doing with Chelsea. Leo proudly states that it was his decision to form an alliance with her. However, Celia finds it hard to believe. She would rather believe him if he said he saw a cockroach and doing somersaults than believe he managed to convince Chelsea, the stubborn goat, to form an alliance. To this, Leo responds casually and sinisterly that he simply convinced her. His malevolent smile confuses even Celia, who begins to wonder exactly what he could have done to convince her anyway. Our guy heads to help the students he just knocked down, lifting them off the ground. Seeing this, Abad asks why Leo is helping his opponents. Our guy quickly clarifies that there is no need to fight among themselves, that it is much better to join forces to defeat the challenges of this world instead of selfishly fighting like Abad. The others seem not to understand which challenge he refers to. Leo directs them to the nearby corpses, hinting at a bigger problem. Seeing the corpses on the ground, one of the students comments that it looks like their moisture has been drained. Leo clarifies that this is not the only strange thing here. He points out that this place suddenly seems completely empty of monster presence, as if the monsters were afraid of something, as if a high-level monster had appeared and scared the others away in the forest. As the pieces fall into place, Abad finally understands what is happening. According to his understanding, the hero's first feat was to defeat a high-level monster. Right at that moment, everyone hears a massive roar in the distance, the sound of something close and ominous. Moving deep in the forest, the roar fills the air with tension, a clear sign that the monster has finally decided to reveal itself. Meanwhile, Kuyiban stumbles through the forest. Only with a torch in hand, he looks terrified, and despite being in serious trouble, his weak mind is more focused on getting revenge on our guy than on surviving. Suddenly, he notices a corpse at his feet, and there is also something behind it, a veil of darkness that makes him trip and fall. What he saw in the darkness is a giant monster. The monster looks like a huge spider and seems quite hungry. It is already clear that Wolven is also like dead. Now let's explore what happens with the professor, Albie, and the students. It turns out an impressive number of 500 students have failed the exam. The real problem is that the selection process requires choosing at least 100 students, but only 50 remain in the test. Instead of forcing himself to choose, the professor believes he will only select the right candidates who meet his expectations. After all, the director put him in charge, knowing he would choose the best of the best. Albie is a believer in discovering heroes in times of great difficulty, and has taken an interest in Plab, a dark horse with unexpected talent. The question is, will this dark horse be able to pass the very difficult exam? Back to the scene of the students in the exam. They are quickly on their feet and have difficulty orienting themselves due to the dark atmosphere. Celia lights up her sword and states that she has seen something ahead. The red glow of her sword reveals the face of the terrifying spider that is currently devouring its prey. This instills fear in their hearts, while Abad runs to use a wizard spell and take down the threat. However, Leo is quick to stop him and advises Guyan to break the clear crystal. Guyan is about to become breakfast between the spider's teeth, so he can barely move. He decides to break the blue crystal, sending a surge of electricity into the creature's mouth. With his preparations ready, Abad charges his spell Raphael and launches it against the monstrous threat. His attack manages to wound the monster, but fails to deliver the killing blow. The four are horrified as they realize the level of threat they are facing. This terrifying creature is the tarantula spider princess, and she is not at all pretty a student. recklessly throws himself at her, hoping for a melee attack. He is quickly humiliated with a single blow to his body, sending him crashing to the ground. Then it is Celia's turn, who arrogantly assumes she will end the fight with a single attack by activating her most powerful spell. She releases a sharp but destructive red light that pierces the creature's body. Sending waves of pain, however, the spider is as tough as a tank and recovers quickly, making Celia's focus useless. Abad takes advantage of this moment to scold her, saying that the destructive power of a mage and a knight is incomparable. He releases a wind spell, Raphael, to cut the spider in an endless spiral. However, at the end of his attack he is terrified to see that the creature is still alive and well, staring at them. Feeling that his brother is in imminent danger, Chelsea uses her wind-cutting magic to help him. Despite this, Abad suffers a cut from the spider's claw. Although his sister's attack softens the blow with her magic, she goes to see how he is. After he almost lost an arm, they have tried everything against this monster, but its incredibly fast regeneration proves useless. Despair begins to invade their hearts as the tarantula queen and approaches to finish them off. Leo intervenes and explains that this creature is the daughter of Solo, a deadly monster from the army of Eros, responsible for incinerating the elven forest. Moreover, Leo reflects that the mana he detected in Professor Alby's left eye contained signs of the Fairy King's mana. The tarantula ruled the cursed wild forest. Not only did she destroy the elves' forest, but also devoured the Fairy King's most trusted comrade who rebelled against her at the time. Leo believed Luna had responsibly defeated the tarantula, but it turns out the reality is different. The tarantula survived, thanks to devouring the Fairy King's assistant, who possessed the source of infinite life energy in the form of an invaluable artifact, the Ring of Life. Abad is as stubborn as a log and thinks it's right that he himself defeats the monster. If it's part of the exam, both he and Celia decide to unleash consecutive attacks, hoping to defeat the creature on their own. The tarantula withstands their fury, but Leo believes it's all useless, since the creature will simply keep regenerating endlessly. In fact, they will be the ones to run out of mana first in a last attempt. Celia asks for his opinion on how they should handle the monster. Leo explains it requires teamwork of two, but his suggestion is immediately rejected by Abad, who selfishly hopes to overcome the monster on his own. The same happens with Celia, with both acting like children. Our guy intervenes and gives them a harsh reality lesson. If they don't work together to defeat the monster, they will all fail. His words finally reach Abad, who considers the possibility of working together and thinks it will still take time to start a joint attack that kills the creature in one blow. The problem is that since no one but them can delay the monster, it will be difficult to decide to contribute to the fight. Leo expresses that he can buy some time for them. Celia thinks he has gone crazy and reminds him that he can't even use aura, yet Leo confirms he can hold out no more than 5 minutes. In his state, the mage Abad fears that their coordinated attack might fail by then. However, Leo is absolutely sure it will work and takes a weapon from the ground, adds that the elements of fire and wind share a great affinity with each other, so it will be enough despite their differences. The Sword Princess and the Great Wizard become allies, while Leo looks at the ugly spider as a good challenge and a reminder of his past life. The fight begins with our guy impressively cutting one of the creature's limbs with a sharp strike, leaving the other two students surprised. Then he proceeds to annihilate the creature's face and feels satisfied to find the Tardos monster. Exploring a flashback from the past, we see an elf child running through terrifying tears. Unfortunately, the Tardos monster captures him with its web. With the child being completely immobilized in the creature's net, there is no chance to escape. The spider quickly arrives, ready to devour him whole. The child begs for his mother's help and awaits his imminent fate until a being appears, radiant like a savior, a being of light that prevents the creature from harming the child. Luna, furious with the creature that is wreaking havoc in her native land, and even devouring the contractor responsible for being the right hand of the elven forest, unleashes a light attack aimed at the fanged creature. Her magical attack envelops Tardos, trapping the creature before sending a thunder column. Luna did not expect the army of rings to have arrived and also conquered the elven forest. At that moment, Leo, in his original life, took care of freeing the child, helping him escape from the web. Let's return to the current scene where he is standing with an axe in hand, ready to buy time for his companions, yet he can't do much without his aura. Asking Chelsea for help, Leo instructs her to use elemental magic to attack it with her weapons. He evasively dodges a blow thanks to his enormous speed. Chelsea is worried that he might get trapped in the attack at this rate. However, Leo emphasizes that he will be fine as long as he hurries. Chelsea activates her magic, ready to shape any kind of weapon for him. Leo doesn't care which one as long as it works. She manifests a weapon for him while he guesses she is preparing a scimitar and a sword. With both weapons in hand, Leo unleashes his fury of slashes, cutting the spider with each weapon, breaking. Chelsea throws another one in his direction. He catches a dagger and a battle axe. The shocking and overwhelming physical abilities of Leo have left Chelsea amazed, so much that she thinks he is an expert in martial arts. Even Avid can't help but think he is very strong. Yet, he is not invincible as a sharp cut grazes his face. Leo thinks that if he can't stop a damn spider here and now, his friends will never stop teasing him in the afterlife. He increases the intensity and cuts the spider, asking for another weapon. Unfortunately, Chelsea has run out of weapons, which leaves him surprised. Fortunately, Celia has already finished preparing her final blow. She unleashes a roaring spiral of fire, incinerating the creature and defeating it once and for all. The life ring falls. It cleans off his body, and the monster is finally subdued. Celia falls to the ground, grateful that it is all over. But she can't help but focus on Leo's superhuman performance for holding off Tardos for 5 minutes. Celia tries to praise him, but Chelsea is even quicker with her words. She has become his #1 fan and thinks that his performance a moment ago was comparable to that of legendary heroes. Leo doesn't give it much importance, but this girl is going crazy for him. Since she wants to become a battle magic specialist, she asks him to teach her. Curiously, Celia hopes Chelsea receives exclusive training from him to experience what it really means to suffer anyway. Our guy proceeds to take the life ring that manifests Prince Sid as a fairy, reviving the prince's memory, saying his name. Upon hearing that, the prince returns to the ring and accepts Celia as the fairy queen. All this is thanks to Professor Albie stumbling upon the Mana Eye. The countdown for the trial field begins. The trial stage has won the Fairy King's Oath Award. Before his transfer, Leo recognizes someone from his past life. We quickly move forward to Kail Badian, the Academy director, who is reviewing the report of the Western Territory exam. His assistant wonders how many students Albie passed due to his strict requirements. The director is quite surprised to see that 40 students passed the exam, which is still a low number, but he is not too disappointed, since he thought he would only see up to 10 students pass at most. This is still a great achievement. Celia and Abbott seem to be the main candidates according to his expectations. The director heard that someone was recommended as the representative of the year. It is quite surprising that Albie, of all people, recommended a student. They are almost sure it has to be a candidate from Singaro Leland. But it turns out this candidate is someone no one had heard of before. A man who surpasses both Celia and Abbott in performance. Now we go to the professor's side, who is sharply evaluating the boy's skills. He recommended the student Leo Plab as the representative of the Knights Division. The director expresses his surprise upon hearing the professor also talk about this brilliant student, and specifically described this candidate as someone with the talent of a hero. Now that the exam is over, our boy is enjoying a hot sauna, delighting in its heat. The reward for passing the exam is the Fairy King's Oath. Now then, when it comes to surpassing the living world of a hero, there is not supposed to be a typical reward, but curiously they gave him one as an exception. Leo doesn't understand why, and sees his mother standing in front of him. She confronts the boy, asking if he knows why she was expelled from the Singer House in an attempt to rescue an ally. She ended up losing control and unleashed the flames of Singer, but has not regretted her decision. Not even now, focusing her attention on her only son. She wants the boy's incredible talent to be directed in the right way. Also, she is delighted to congratulate him for being accepted into the academy. Upon setting foot in the glorious rainy city, students are asked to gather their belongings before leaving through the Lumia Gate. It is the center of the world, and its most prized institution is the Lumen Academy. With Leo finally arrived, his uncle comes to greet him and shares his congratulations for passing. Leo wonders what he is doing here, and learns that the Singer House is currently occupied, resolving an endless debate that has been ongoing for at least a month. He asks the boy if he knows the reason for the conflict. Leo wonders if it has something to do with the Phoenix Breath inheritance. His uncle confirms that it indeed is so. And although his older sister is not part of the Singer clan, Leo is inevitably his son. Furthermore, the elders of the clan are very impressed by the boy's achievement in passing the Western exam, known to be extremely difficult. Leo is given a special subspace key, which he decides to use immediately. By reciting a command, this unlocks access to a special book. His uncle instructs him to stain the pages of the book with his blood. Leo follows his instructions. He bites his thumb and drops blood onto the page. Now that he has shared his blood, he has access to the information inside the book, something no one else will be able to know. And although it is not easy to master the Singer techniques, his uncle trusts the boy's talent and believes he will get used to it quickly. With this, he officially welcomes him to the Singer House. After their meeting, Celia requests to meet Leo in an unknown place. Suddenly a girl accidentally bumps into him, causing both to fall. The girl quickly picks up her books, apologizing for her hurried rush, and leaves. Leo notices her card, picks it up, and learns her name is Chloe Muller. A first-year student at the Leo Academy opens the door to find an annoyed Celia, who reminds her that they have many things to buy and it's already late. He apologizes, as he unexpectedly ran into his uncle, before arriving there with a big smile. Celia curiously asks what happened to answer her burning question. The boy orders the family flames without questioning if he is doing things the right way. Upon seeing this, she is completely incredulous, the confident. Leo managed to master the secret technique in less than a month. His incredible achievement leaves her in shock, and she wonders if he is even human. Later that day, the princess, Sword, and the forgotten hero see a ship docking nearby. Professor Anandu introduces himself as the instructor of the night's class and wants the students to board the ship immediately. As they will soon depart for Lumen, the journey begins with the students quietly enjoying their time. Leo and Celia seem like a couple, which causes a confident young man to make a comment that annoys Celia. He is an alchemist from the kingdom of Moira and is a merchant with all kinds of products to sell. He tries to do business with the couple in case they need supplies for school. Leo introduces himself with his identity as a student and explains that he belongs to the kingdom of Age. Thomas is visibly surprised to hear this, because that kingdom passed the difficult Western exam. Leo wants to address the topic in the room, as he is finding the whole situation a bit strange. It seems too calm despite Celia thinking this is the standard deal they should receive. First-year students. After passing the exam, the boy directs his attention to his instructor, while Thomas agrees with Celia's understanding of the situation. Suddenly the ship shakes, as a gigantic tentacle rises from the ocean, almost crushing Thomas, while the rest of the students beg their instructor to intervene. The teacher, casually drinking his wine, mocks them, even asking if they need help. He reminds them that students of the academy are expected to give their best in times of danger, so this is a challenge they must overcome on their own. They are facing the ugliest of the ugly, a giant kraken watching them. Even in this tense situation, the forgotten hero keeps his composure and cuts the creature's tentacle with his sword. Celia is also doing well on her own, experiencing the Princess Sword's fire attack. The kraken reacts with a water jet, soaking Celia. The monster grabs Thomas, who is screaming non-stop. Seeing this, both Celia and Leo rush at full speed to cut the creature. The greedy alchemist is surprised, as he expected the Princess Sword to do well on her own due to her reputation. But he didn't expect another student to be just as fierce. The poor Thomas is almost crushed by a frozen tentacle and yells at the person who could have killed him a moment ago. Chloe, the girl with glasses who bumped into our boy, she is controlling ice magic and holding the monster at bay on her own. She scolds the alchemist, who is unnecessarily becoming a burden in the fight. Instead of staying back, Thomas confesses that people like her don't care about the weaker ones than them. After crushing another tentacle, we see the dynamic duo of Abadi Chelsea entering action. They still haven't finished their rivalry between the two clans, but the battle mage has her sights set on our boy, despite being an enemy of several monsters in the lake. As they head toward the academy, the instructor thinks this is the perfect welcome for the first-year students. Enjoying his wine, he comments on the best students: Chelsea, Celia, Abad, Chloe Golden, and finally Duran Moira. The captains of each region are performing excellently. In the face of the threat, however, beyond them, there is a student who has eclipsed their performance. A first-year student, without a prominent mastery in any region. His fencing is the definition of perfection, and he is reacting as if he is predicting every attack. The instructor is happy that he will see the boy unleash all his potential in his classes. Anyway, the useless alchemist quickly runs out of potions. When they finally arrive at their destination after getting off the ship, the instructor hopes the students get used to dealing with monsters. Since they will have to deal with it frequently, it is time to explore the glorious entrance hall. The training fields of Lumen Academy are extraordinary. Many spectators expect the first-year students to put on a good show. The entrance ceremony is about to begin. The Knights division is gathered by their instructor, who wants the captains to come to the front of the line. The academy director oversees the announcement, expecting great things from the candidates, the heroes of this year, who emphasize to the students that if they ever want to become strong heroes, they will have to risk their lives and will always be required to surpass their limits, pounding their fist on the ground. The director believes that if they cannot do at least what he just mentioned, then they do not belong to the prestigious institution. And then a second later, he melts into a grandfatherly attitude. Acting as if he hadn't just terribly intimidated them, he points and asks why everyone has suddenly gone silent. His brilliant reputation and image as the brilliant swordmaster are tarnished by the day. Next is the turn for a speech from the representative of the first-year students, a man the first-year students eagerly await. It's not Celia, not Abad, nor Chloe, nor anyone else. Only the name Leo is highlighted, which surprises even him. He quickly turns toward the professor and realizes it must have been him who recommended him. Leo approaches the podium and addresses the teachers and upper-year students with his speech. While this happens, many students are discussing this unknown student. They don't know what happened or who he is. The speech comes to an end after a tiring moment. When Leo is asked about his goals as the year representative, he realizes that his goal is to intentionally provoke the students behind him. Leo offers his words very politely and professionally, catching the attention of the other instructors who think it will be a very reserved ceremony until our guy goes crazy, and declares openly that he is ready to accept anyone who challenges him for the position. This hostile and bold announcement provokes the top-ranked, but Leo really doesn't care who he has to face. With the announcement made, the students go to their dorms. Starting tomorrow, exploratory classes will take place for a week. This is a special grace period for students to take any class, which will later help them decide on 3 subjects to specialize in. They are advised to rest so they don't face late classes on their first day. Leo's room is assigned right next to Thomas, who is excited for his first class the next day. They exchange a goodnight greeting, and Leo collapses on his bed. His mind is busy wondering what he is supposed to achieve at the academy. Taking advantage of his place in the best institution, he desperately hopes to find his long-lost hero record. The next day in the cafeteria, Thomas wants to share a seat with our guy, who really doesn't mind, and approves the request. Leo receives an annoying visit from someone he is not familiar with. This guy is Duran from the Central Region, and he is here to confirm. If the challenge he expressed in the announcement has any weight, Leo understands that his speech was entirely provocative. After all, he invited a stranger to face him aggressively. Duran thinks he is a big figure from the Central Region, but Leo simply doesn't care, and he keeps drinking his fruit juice, annoyed at being underestimated. Duran launches a deafening kick that sends the table flying. However, the speed of Leo helps him reorganize the ingredients and form his perfect burger. This man is the definition of class. As he turned the occasion into a meal, Leo taunts him, saying he couldn't ignore free food. Wasted that way. Duran, on the other hand, is in kill mode with every word, thinking the first-year representative is much weaker than him, which his ego cannot bear. Intervening in the fight, his instructor casually places both arms around the 2 students and politely mentions their ranks. As the representative and the captain of the region, the instructor expects them to be prepared to receive the corresponding punishment for participating in a fight on the first day. It can be seen on their faces that both are asking for help. Let's move forward and visit the first exploratory class of the KN department. For some reason, Celia is worried about Leo's absence. Finally, he appears completely exhausted. His condition catches Celia's attention, who thinks he fought with someone. Leo decides not to say anything for the moment. The class is about to begin, and the instructor for the first night classes introduces himself. Thomas notes that Duran is already on bad terms with Leo while his teacher talks about the 3 main powers derived from mana. The first is magical energy, the second is soul energy, and finally, we have the aura of the 3. The aura is considered the most difficult to handle. Celia adds that this is because it requires losing the fluidity of mana during the conversion process. Her answer is correct, since magical energy and soul energy tend to use mana in its natural state, but the aura, on the other hand, absorbs mana and converts it to adapt it to the body. The instructor demonstrates what an aura looks like, and wonders if any of them know how to use the processed aura of their bodies. Gathering her thoughts, Celia fails to find a reasonable answer. The first-year representative breaks his silence and explains that using the power of an aura requires burning mana. He has reached the correct conclusion, as the instructor pointed out, which leads him to ask about the most crucial aspect of the mana-burning process. Leo responds quickly, saying it is resistance. Impressed by the boy's understanding of the aura, the instructor asks if he has ever studied the concept before. It turns out he hasn't, which is again an impressive feat. A person who hasn't even studied the aura extensively somehow managed to understand its true essence. Deciding to end the theoretical explanation, the instructor thinks it's time to do some exercise. Using his aura, he launches a wave-shaped platform called Aura Step, which fundamentally depends on concentrating the power of the aura in the legs. The instructor descends to the ground and mentions, excitedly, that the applications of aura are practically infinite. Some of the other students experiment and face off against each other, while Celia annoys our guy by telling him she is ready to teach him how aura works, as long as he calls her sister. Leo doesn't feel the critical need for her help, since he's fine with knowing the principles of aura. Noticing Duran beside him, The instructor thinks it's a good time to address the commotion that happened in the cafeteria. Some students, like Chelsea, don't know what happened, and Thomas increases their curiosity even more with his comments. Both Leo and Duran are called to the front by the instructor first. The instructor confronts Duran and asks what bothered him so much. After hearing Duran's dismissive response, the instructor decides to offer the perfect suggestion. He wants the captain of the Central Region to face the first-year representative. In a racing competition, everything is to decide which student is qualified to lead the class. The instructor explains that both students can use their aura openly without restrictions holding them back, which seems like a perfect advantage for Duran. The day of the competition has arrived, and Thomas, being the expert businessman, is busy organizing a betting system. The first contestant is the genius from the Moira house, and Laura's master of lightning, Duran. In front of him is the dark horse without a special background, a man who jumped over even the captains of the regions and became the first-year representative, Leo Plab. The students expect great things from the first-year representative. After all, they are extremely disappointed to discover that he can't even use a simple move like Aura Step. Everyone thinks his position is not justified, and that someone like the captain of the Central Region is more suitable for the role of representative. Realizing that it is the perfect moment to start, the instructor sets the rules. The first to reach the finish line will win, and his opponent must accept the results without fail. The race is about to start. Even Celia thinks this competition is too much for Leo to win. Duran specializes in speed, not to mention his incredibly fast lightning aura. Even with those odds against him, Celia hopes that Leo will subvert everyone's expectations by achieving the impossible. As soon as the professor shouted, the runners took off. Duran Moida covered himself with a lightning aura, confident that his speed would leave Leo in the dust.